Hello fly tiers, welcome back. My name is Matt and thank you for stopping by the channel. Now tonight's pattern is number 17 in the Great Smoky Mountain series. This one is called the Thunderhead. Now it is largely attributed to Fred Hall from Bryson City, North Carolina, but legend has it that a guy named Jesse Jamerson from Lenoir City, Tennessee brought it back from Wyoming. Now he always had Fred Hall tying his flies for him, so Fred tied this one, gave it a name, the Thunderhead, and it quickly became popular in the Smoky Mountains. In fact, it is one of the few Smoky Mountain patterns that have become popular throughout the rest of the country. Now this one's not that difficult to tie. It's a generic mayfly dun pattern. It's got its roots in the Adams dry fly. It's a high floater, highly visible, can be fished in all kinds of water. I think you're gonna like it. Let's give it a shot. There it is in the vise, the Thunderhead. Now this can be tied on a size 10 down to an 18. I'm tying it on a 12. This is a 1X long dry fly hook. And I am using black 8/0 thread. I'll put a base down all the way to where I'm going to start the tail. Now the tail of this guy is deer hair. You probably don't need to put it in your stacker. I did, but it's only 12 to 15 fibers. So you could certainly get away without stacking it. And how long is the tail? I'm going to say a hook gap. That's what it looks like in the picture. If you never know how long a tail is supposed to be, just assume a hook gap. And then say that. Say, oh, this one should be a hook gap. And then people will think you know what you're talking about. So yes, this one should be a hook gap long. Whoops, maybe a little bit longer. Yeah, that's what I'm going with. So a couple of medium wraps right there, tighter, tighter. If you put real tight wraps in the back, you're going to get more flare. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this off short right here. Now let's tie in our wing, or post, calf tail, white calf tail. So take your thread back up to where we want this to be, probably a third of the way back. I think that's going to be fine right there. Now, I have been just taking a big chunk of calf tail, so maybe that much right there. And I haven't even been putting it in my stacker. You can pull out some of the short ones on the side, and that might help you get it a better looking wing post. But it's just really hard to stack this stuff. So lay it where your thread is and then envision flipping it up. And you want the wing post to be just a little bit longer than your hackle is going to be. So I'm going to come back just a little bit. I'm going to do it right there. So I'll put 2 medium wraps right here. Take a look at it. Make sure the front is not really spinning around. Now I can go back and put tighter and tighter and tighter as we go. So that last wrap there was pretty tight. Now how you want to do this one, lift this up, make sure you don't grab your tail, and pull it up at about a 45-degree angle. Lay your scissors down here parallel to it, and then just slowly cut across. Now I'll show you why doing it that way really helps. But if you've got an extra fiber there you missed, you'll need to take care of that. Okay, so if you did that right and got pretty lucky, as you wind tighter wraps right here, you're going to end up with a natural taper, which will help you with the underbody, make the underbody look a little bit better. Or you won't have to worry about building the taper with your dubbing. So take your thread back up to where you started this post, and we're going to lift it up and put as many wraps as you need to get this standing up almost perpendicular. You can have it a little bit going forward. So let's do a little bit more right there. This is 8/0 thread, so it takes a good bit to build it up. And now what I've been doing is just putting about 3 wraps around it, almost like I was doing a parachute post. It just helps it stay together and looks just a little bit neater there. See that? I think that is about the angle we want and standing up pretty well. So let's take our thread back to where we're going to tie in the dubbing. Okay, put some wax on your thread. Not a big chunk like that, but just enough to hold this dubbing on. Now I'm going to use rabbit. It calls for gray. It's not an Adams gray. It's a darker gray than that. See that? Well, it's hard to tell that this is darker, but you'll see when we get it put on. So maybe 2 to 3 inches of a noodle here. Now use a little bit of bare thread to get you back to where you want the dubbing to start. And that was not enough dubbing. I need just a little bit more. Okay, I think that body looks fine right there. Now, the hackle. Brown dry fly hackle. Measure your piece. I already measured this one. You want it a little bit longer than the hook gap. So I measured this one by spinning it around the hook there, and I went ahead and stripped a bare section of it. So I'm going to tie this in here with just a little bit of bare stem showing. 2 or 3 securing wraps on the behind the wing, and then 2 or 3 up forward. And we can go in here and snip this butt end off. And take your thread back up to where we're going to finish this hackle. So about right there. Now I have about 4 inches of feather, so I think I can tie this without my hackle pliers. We'll see. A good 3 wraps behind it if you can get it, and then 4 or 5 in front of it because it's a fairly bushy fly. Okay, I think that was probably 5 up front, but this fiber density on this feather was not that great. So after securing it with a couple wraps right there, let's go ahead and push this back. I'm going to do this before I snip that excess off. Sometimes it makes it just a little bit easier. Don't go too far back on it because you don't want them laying flat. Just enough to, get room for your head there. Now I think we have room for the whip finish before we snip off that excess. So I will do a 3, 4, maybe 5 turn. But now we can go in here and trim this excess off as close as you can get it. Try not to trim too many extra fibers. But there you go, the Thunderhead. Great fishing pattern, looks similar to an Adams. Fishes almost like it, but a pretty cool pattern, pretty easy to tie. So I appreciate you watching, folks, and we'll see you next time.